Hi, my name's Al and today I'm going to show you how to set up your front mech. Before we get started, it's important to check a few things. Everything needs to be clean, that's going to help, and it'd be a good idea if everything isn't worn out as well. So check your chain, make sure that's got some life in it, and then we can get on with adjusting it. The position of the mech is really important. If we don't get this right, it will never work properly. There should be around about a 3mm gap in between the top of the teeth of the chainring, the outer ring, and the underside of the outer plate of the mech. So this bit here, that's really important. It's also essential that this outer plate is perfectly parallel with the chainrings. We can adjust that by moving the mech by adjusting the band on a conventional mech and a conventional frame, or on a mech like this, which is directly mounted to the frame. There's a bolt here which we can adjust the height of the mech with. So with the mech in the right place, then we need to set about adjusting it. It's not difficult, but people do struggle with it sometimes. I think it's really important to understand what the adjustments actually do to the mech. There's two main adjustments once we've got it positioned properly. They are the limit screws, so they're here on the mech. One is marked L for low, one's marked H for high. These control how far the mech can move, and they're used to prevent the chain from shifting over either the largest or the smallest chainring. The second adjustment is cable tension. If you need to make a large adjustment, it can be made here at the pinch bolt, but smaller adjustments need to be made using the barrel adjuster on the shifter. The cable tension dictates where the mech sits when the chain is in the middle ring position, and also we use it to make sure that the chain will shift properly onto the outer ring and the smaller ring as well. Too much cable tension and it won't drop down onto the smaller chain rings. Not enough and it won't shift up to the larger chain rings. The first adjustment that we're going to make is the low stop adjustment. So before we start, we're going to shift to first gear. So that's the smallest chainring on the front and the biggest sprocket at the back. To take cable tension out of the equation, we'll undo the cable clamp. With the cable unclamped, we can set the stop. So take your screwdriver into the low screw, and we are adjusting the mech until the inner cage just clears the chain, so it doesn't rub on it. Like so. Next, we set the cable tension. So we wind the barrel adjuster on the shifter all the way in, and then back out about 2 turns. That will give us something to play with. So now we need to clamp the cable. Make sure it's routed correctly. Pull it as tight as you can with your fingers. And tighten the bolt. With the cable clamped, we should have the right tension, or at least be in the ballpark. So what we're going to do now is check the rest of the gears and sort out the high stop. So we should be able to shift up onto the largest chainring. We need to select the highest gear at the back, so that's the smallest sprocket. And then we're adjusting the high screw here so that the outer cage of the mech just clears the chain. So it should be nice and quiet. We should be able to achieve a nice shift up onto the large chainring. If it struggles a little, you can back it off slightly. And that's the high stop set. So we've got everything pretty much spot on now. We can fine tune the performance of the mech in its 3 positions on this triple chain set. So if we're having particular problems, so in the smallest ring, the granny ring, then we might have the issue of the chain dropping off onto the BB shell when we shift down onto it. The solution to that will be to wind in the low stop. This will move the mech over so it can't travel so far towards the BB shell, and that will prevent the chain from dropping off. If we have the opposite problem, and that's that it will not shift onto the granny ring, then we need to back out the low screw in order to allow the mech to have sufficient travel to move far enough across to drop the chain onto the chain ring. In the middle ring, any adjustments here, once the mech is set in the correct position, are all done with cable tension. So if you have excessive rubbing, or it won't shift easily enough onto the middle ring from either the large ring or the granny ring, it's all done with cable tension. So if it's struggling to shift from the granny ring up onto the middle ring, more cable tension will allow it to be pulled further across. And if it will not drop down from the big ring onto the middle ring, then less cable tension will allow it to move further inwards. If there's a bit too much noise in any of the extremes on the cassette, then that can be fine-tuned out with the barrel adjuster as well. To troubleshoot problems in the big ring, if the chain isn't shifting up onto the big ring, do one of 2 things. Either your high stop is wound in too far and the mech physically can't move over far enough to shift the chain onto it, or you've not got enough cable tension for the mech to be pulled over that far. So those are the adjustments that you need to make. Other problem that you might have is the chain shifts straight over and lands on the crank. That will be a problem with the high stop. If you wind the high stop in, it will prevent it from travelling too far over and stop the chain from derailing. When you're happy with everything, then you just need to run through all of the gears to make sure everything is shifting as it should. Make any minor adjustments you need. So the chain's a little bit slow to shift onto the granny ring there. So just back the low screw off very slightly. It's important that you check the function of the front mech in all the gears at the back as well, because it does change the way that it shifts. So I went too far on the low stop adjustment there. The chain came off onto the BB shell. Just wind it in very slightly. When you're happy with the way it's shifting, then you're all done. So that's it. Front mechs can be a bit of a pain to adjust, but I think as long as you get that initial setup correct, so the mech in exactly the right place to begin with, and you know what the adjustments do, so the limit screws and the cable tension, then you won't go far wrong. With a bit of playing around, you should be able to get it set up spot on. Thanks for watching. Cheers. See ya.